Welcome to Module 2, Concepts of Sustainable Cities and Communities. Do you know what is our common future, and what took place at the events we know as Rio+10 and Rio+20? Do you know what characteristics of a city make it a sustainable one? What makes cities unsustainable, and would you know one if you saw one? What can Cape Town and Toronto learn from one another when looking at the emission intensity of their electricity supply? How have cities in Germany and Japan reduced their greenhouse gas emissions yet continue to grow their transportation networks? The second module of this course provides concepts of sustainable cities and communities through the lens of sustainable development, focusing specifically on climate change. By the end of this module, you will be able to interpret the challenges with rapid urbanization and implications for sustainability in cities around the world, and the challenges and opportunities in African cities as a learning outcome. Then you'll go through the topics of this module. In a series of videos, you will learn about the Sustainable Development Goals, definitions for a sustainable versus unsustainable city, climate change in cities, and strategies towards green growth. In the first video, you'll go through the chronological development of the Sustainable Development Goals, leading to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, with a focus on the Sustainable Development Goal 11 for sustainable cities and communities. In the second video, you'll compare and contrast factors that create a sustainable versus unsustainable city by looking at CityLab's article on the scientific proof that cities are like nothing else in nature. That brings in findings from Louis Betancourt's article in Science on the origins of scaling in cities, and sheds some light on Michael Batty's book on the new science of cities. And you'll find some definitions by a variety of authors on sustainable city and unsustainable city. In the third video, climate change in cities will be presented from the perspective of greenhouse gas emissions in cities, pointing to the research findings by Chris Kennedy and a group of 9 other authors as they researched greenhouse gas emissions from global cities. In the fourth video, you'll get to know some strategies towards green growth, drawing on the findings by Chris Kennedy and Jan Corfi-Morlo on the past performance and future needs for low-carbon, climate-resilient infrastructure and investment perspective. And to give you context for sustainable and unsustainable city infrastructure in global cities, you will find examples from Melbourne, Rio de Janeiro, Seattle, and Sydney. Specifically looking at water in Melbourne, solid waste management in Rio, transportation in Seattle, and renewable energy in Sydney, all in the form of one-page project summaries that have been put together by the C40 Cities City Solutions platform. And in African cities, you'll find examples from Accra, Addis Ababa, Dar es Salaam, Johannesburg, and Nairobi, in the form of city cards that have been put together by Arabs exploring the future of African cities, on inadequate housing, transport infrastructure, and access to safe water. A module summary in the form of a checklist to recap what was presented appears at the end of the module, followed by a quiz to test your comprehension and a chance to join the discussion to reflect on the material by contributing your thoughts on the circular relationship between cities and climate change, in that activities in cities are a chief cause of climate change and also impacted by climate change. Should you want to look further into the readings, have a look at the sources listed under references.